Welcome to Bemovation. My name is Noluthando Chabalala, also known as the Advocate of Self-Love. This is the channel, the podcast, the platform where beauty meets motivation. This is where I urge you, inspire you, push you, alongside my guests, to be the best version that you can possibly be. I partner, I talk to, I engage with amazing people from all over the country. And today's guest is super special. She's super special because she actually is a childhood friend. I'm a little bit emotional because all the memories I have of her are with my late mother. Her name is Katlego Msomi, and Katlego Msomi is a South African-born broadcaster hailing from the vibrant township of Soweto, Jovicho. And she holds a Bachelor in Commerce, specializing in risk management and finance from the University of South Africa. Katlego's career spans over 18 years, having carved her teeth as a content TV producer, coordinator, production manager, on-air host, and voiceover artist. Her various work in these roles have been for channels such as SABC 1, 2, and 3, BusinessDay TV, Soweto TV, Supersport, Newszroom Afrika, and other international news houses. And I had to get that on the teleprompter because, we gotta respect people's work.
Listen to
Katlego,
you.
thank you so much for coming.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for the invite. I didn't sleep a wink last night. I was so excited.
You are as cute as I remember you to be.
Back in the day.
No,
Thank you.
you are still, Katlego, you've always been cute, like adorable.
This little chubby girl.
Please look into the camera.
So dlalanga.
No, you've always been adorable. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, my
coming.
love. It's an absolute pleasure.
I've introduced you, but can you tell us more about who Katlego is and what Katlego is currently doing, and also, your business? But we'll get into it as we go along.
Okay, cool. So, like you said, born and bred in Soweto. I'm a Soweto girl all the way. That's where you and I met.
Yes.
I'm a mother of two. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a business entrepreneur. I'm a broadcaster, like you said. My career began, back in Soweto TV, back in the day. And from community TV, I was then privileged to move onto commercial broadcasters, work behind the scenes. Initially, when I got into TV, I thought it was all about me just being on screen and doing my thing. And then I actually realized, hey, wait, there's a love and a passion for what happens behind the scenes.
Yes.
So that's where my producer role came in, all the way to now me having a production company and doing all the work that we do.
Absolutely amazing. I know that you didn't trick me. You had an ace up your sleeve. You brought some pictures that made me emotional. But you know what? I've got one up on you.
Oh, really?
Because, Katlego, let me tell you something about yourself that maybe you may or may not know. You've always been someone that was going to end up where you are.
Really?
Do you remember we were...
I'm scared now.
So, Katlego went to very good schools early on, right? How she speaks, how she talks, who she is. She's always been like that. And that's why I was so excited to actually have her on here, because you've always had such poise and a sense of, self-articulation that I always admired. So there was a time we were watching TV and I said TV was div. And you were like, do you remember?
I do. I hope I wasn't mean about it, though.
No, you were not.
Okay.
But you were like, no, it's TV. I said, how can it be TV if it's T and a V? Because if it's TV, it's supposed to be.
So practically you were right.
I guess, but also you were right. But this is the thing. When I extended the invite for you to come here, I then kind of went back down to memory lane. And I was like, this is who she was going to be in any case. And I'm so happy and I'm glad that you truly have become what I also have always seen. Did you think this was going to be your path?
Not necessarily, not 100%. Look, you look at certain things, and I always say there's an organization that I run for young girls, Miss Teen Soweto, and I always say to them, that which you're passionate about is most likely your purpose.
Yes.
But we don't necessarily always know what our purpose is very early on. It's very few people that are fortunate to know that far.
Yeah.
So when I look back now, I know my little sister used to say to me, there was a time where you used to make me sit across the table and hold up the newspaper.
Yes,
and
you were
would
like
read
that.
And you were reading the news.
Yes.
And now that I think back, I'm like, oh yes. And she's like, you used to abuse me. But look, I sparked something in her because now she's also a very prominent creative director behind the scenes because, you know, that's where it all started. So you don't necessarily know that this is where I'm going to end up. I think the fire for me was fueled by the fact that I was also a very shy child.
Yes.
I was quiet and I was shy, and I always felt that this thing works against me in life. So getting into public speaking spaces, getting into debating was really just to push myself. And then ultimately, this is where we ended up.
And I love the fact that you mentioned the fire because, I mean, the topic for this season is channeling the fire within to pursue your success.
Right.
And even though throughout all these years we've never seen each other, my mom and I used to follow your journey because I remember when you were in community TV, she actually used to watch, right? How was that for you? Because, you know, we are in the era of people really taking the days of small beginnings very lightly.
Yeah.
Because someone is watching you every single evening on TV, on screen. You are so well articulated and, you know, and they think to themselves, oh, she most probably just rocked up or whatever the case may be. But you started way back.
Way back. They say overnight success takes many, many years to build.
How was the journey starting out?
So for me, just to even start out at Soweto TV, I had always had a thing for the arts and media.
Okay.
I remember in primary school, I was actually offered a scholarship to go to the National School of the Arts. And my divorced parents, who never agreed on anything, agreed on one thing, that I was not going there. Right? So, and the worst part is they took me to the school right next door. So I moved past NSA every single day of my high school life.
Yeah.
But that in the end also worked to my advantage. So after matric, I said to them, listen, can I now go and do my thing? They were like, no, you got good marks for accounting and business. Go study something in line with that.
Yes.
So as you said earlier on, during my varsity days, I then went and did a BCom in risk management. But even then, there was something in me saying, no, man, but there's something about the stage. There's something about creating and being creative. So I would be an extra on Generations, on Benelanders, anywhere where I could be an extra, I was there.
Yes.
And one day I remember so vividly, I was mopping my grandmother's house and there was an ad on Josie FM saying they're looking for people for Soweto TV. I left the bucket and the mop in the middle of the house. I caught a taxi to Dube, and there I was in this long snaking queue for presenters. I stood there until I shot my shot. And at the time, they still had like 1 month contracts with the broadcaster. So Soweto TV would only broadcast for a month and then it was out. And I think a year later, I then got a call from Urban Brew Studios saying, hey, remember you used to do your thing with Soweto TV on those 1 month contracts, come back and let's see what could be done. So I went and I re-auditioned again. And then I started then a TV show called Mbogoto, which I presented with Pumelele Dlamini, who's Zola Seven's older sister. And that show was about inspiring young and old women, especially those who are from Soweto and then obviously beyond. And that was a big learning curve for me because I'd never studied TV.
Yes.
My parents never had the money to take me to an AFDA or NEMISA or Big Fish or where we could study production. So Soweto TV really was my university. And it truly is for many other young people who continue to walk through those doors because there you learn raw. The resources are minimal.
Yeah.
So you really have to make do with anything and everything that is there. But you teach yourself so much that when you then get into the bigger world that's got all this to offer, you're able to pivot a lot more easier than everyone else because you've burnt your fingers, you've experienced it all. So if there's one experience that I really would cherish in my career, is that journey of Soweto TV, because not only then did I discover that I could do this presenting thing, but it was also then producing and production managing, because you have to double up as everything because you never know what's coming.
Security at some point,
HR, finance. I'm joking.
I love that. I'm so in awe of you because, I mean, I guess it's because we haven't seen each other in a long time. I'm starstruck, guys.
Listen to you.
I'm so struck. Katlego, you know, we talk about the fire within.
Yeah.
And my question to you is that you were at your grandmother's house, then you hear an ad on Josie FM about, you know, this opening. Where does the audacity come in? Because the reason Bemovation exists is to really teach the audience courage. Because had you not taken that leap, had you not made a move, had you not decided to take action, we don't know. Perhaps you would still be where you are, perhaps not.
Probably
but
not,
what do you attribute that thing to? Was it curiosity? Was it hunger? What was it in your own words, according to your understanding?
I think for me at that particular moment was just unleashing something within me that said, do it. And it's funny that you should mention that, because my grandmother was very strict. So for me to even leave the house was something that could never just happen.
Yes.
But on that day, I didn't even wait for her permission. I didn't ask. I knew that there was going to be wrath waiting for me when I come back and the bucket and the mop is still in the middle of the house. But there was something that said, go now, take this opportunity now. You never know if it would ever come again. And a lot of the times we switch off that voice that pushes you, that says this is, because we question so much. Is it really the right time? Am I making the right move? What if this is not for me? Just do it. You never know. You never know where this thing is going to take you, where it will land you. And if you fail, it's okay. If it's not for you, it's fine. But you would have discovered at that particular moment that, okay, maybe this one is not mine.
Did you get that? Don't switch off the voice. Listen to it. Sometimes take the risk and take action right there and then, because you don't know what God, you don't know what your higher self is actually opening you up to in that particular present moment.
True.
Right? True. So you find yourself in this industry that you didn't even study for, that you know nothing about. What characteristics did you have to assume, right? Because so many young people, in fact, so many people don't go into certain things because I don't have the qualification.
Right.
I don't have the background. I don't have the resource. I don't know anyone in there. But Katlego left the bucket
and the mop
and ran to the broadcasting industry without all those things. What characteristics did you have to assume? Or if you look back, what persona did you have to operate in for you to actually be seen and heard?
Yeah, you really needed to have a spirit of learning. One that you're constantly open to people saying, no, not like that. This is how we do it. Developing a thick skin, because you're also learning in front of many other people. So all your mistakes are in front of the world.
Yeah.
And if you're going to back down because you're being criticized in a certain way, then you're not really going to move as fast and as far as you should. So it took a lot of learning, it took a lot of knocks, but it took also a lot of resilience, because even with my journey, I didn't just shoot up to main broadcasters and be well known. That was never my journey. Mine was very slow. It took so long, but I had a lot of growth behind the scenes. And that's where I found a lot of my happiness and my passion, and just really what fueled my fire during that period.
Yes.
So sometimes it's not as, you also need to learn how to pivot a lot, because when you enter into something, you have a set way of how you want it to work out.
Yes.
And then God sometimes navigates you differently. And then you sometimes need to go with the flow.
And how did you handle the times when you felt like you were not good enough? Because I imagine you're in that space, and in as much as you are there and you are carving your own space, but you also have other people that are either even more qualified, or the father is some big shot producer, or they just know better and they've seen better. And how did you handle the times where you felt maybe not me?
Or maybe it's just their time to shine brighter at that particular moment, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's sometimes difficult to navigate in that way, where you constantly questioning yourself, especially in an industry that's not as straightforward as this is what you studied for, this is your level of qualification, therefore this is the level in which you enter the industry. It has a lot to do with some things that we can't even see or touch at times. So it becomes difficult, but a support system that you have around you, either of mentors, of the kinds of friends that you keep around, and most importantly, of family that keep reminding you, why is it that you got into this thing, that keep reminding you of the small successes that you've achieved over time, that will then keep you motivated and keep moving on with those very small steps. And we always need to reflect on the little successes that we have. Oh, I was able to do this interview with this particular person. This is how I researched for it. And this is how the audience was able to take from it.
Yes.
That's a tick.
I love that.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I really would like to get into is at times when we find ourselves within a particular journey or process, we don't know when to recognize when we've leveled up. Because regarding yourself, and I personally have this problem where I would take so long to recognize that, you know, I've done well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big deal
and I've paid my dues.
And I've paid my dues, right? So you have been in this industry. At which point did it hit you that, oh man, I'm a big dog. I'm somebody.
I don't know about the big dog, but yeah.
Listen, you are, okay? I mean, you don't get to be on all these platforms without being,
Right.
an esteemed seasonal broadcaster. You are. I mean, respect to everything that you've done, where you are and how you work.
Right.
You are, in my eyes, like, one of the, I could say, I don't know, you're just there, Katlego, come on, you're just there. But when did it hit you? Was there ever a moment where you thought, no, this is me?
This is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, there have been a few, I guess. When you would walk into a room and you're not necessarily there for broadcasting, and people will say, oh, I watched this conversation that you had with such and such a person. This is how it touched me. Or this is what I learned from it. Where you would even speak to ordinary people. And I think for me, that matters more.
Yeah.
Especially even during my time at Soweto TV.
Yes.
I had a big fan base of Abogok.
Yes, yeah.
And they would come in and say, I love how you inspire young girls. I love how my daughter is able to take 1, 2, and 3 from you.
Yes.
But most importantly, your authenticity. Because sometimes this world can really take away from who we are, how we were brought up, how we carry ourselves. And for us to be able to be beings that other young people who look and relate to us can go, oh, I see myself there. Oh, so I can also do it.
Yes.
Oh, it doesn't take only X and Y to be able to get onto a certain platform. So it's just those little moments where you do realize that, oh, okay, maybe what I am doing is seen and looked at by people way beyond, because for some of us it's a job.
Yes.
You walk in there and you walk out, and I was saying earlier on, sometimes when people recognize you out in the street, they're like, where do I know you from? And then you're also trying to figure out, maybe did we go to school together? Then you realize, oh shucks, it's that job.
You know me from your screen. Yeah. How easy or how difficult is it to be a broadcaster? Because you see, we see you every time, and it kind of becomes part of the day.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes part of life. However, many people do not realize the amount, whether it's technical, whether it's research. In fact, let me let you actually tell us, how easy or how difficult is it to be on that chair and be giving us these reports every single day?
It's really not easy. And I think almost like with any other job, if you want to do it right, there's a lot that needs to go in, especially behind the scenes. So there's a lot of preparation in terms of the communication and the conversations that you would have with your production team with regards to what conversations you're going to curate for the day. And then from there, it's going out and researching and speaking to people, and also being very aware of what it is that you put out. Because with the mediums that we are on, we mold the minds of many people in South Africa and the world beyond. So what you put out there is something that you want people to consume in a very responsible manner, and in a manner in which they can then go act out in a way that would better the community and our societies.
Yes.
So there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. Of course, then there's the makeup and the hair and the wardrobe, and then that's the fun bit of it. But a lot of it has to do with you being in tune and being aware. And it's not only when you're in the job. So whatever news is going on in the world, you constantly need to be in tune. You need to know what's happening. You need to know how that impacts you, the viewer, and the world around. So you always have to be tuned in any way, globally, locally, at a community level, at a campus level. You need to know what's happening in and around you, because there are times where there are breaking news that you didn't prep for. And it lands on your desk, and then they say, you need to have this conversation now.
Right now.
You need to know, you need to have an idea, and you need to be able to steer that conversation in a respectful and responsible way.
So there's a lot of agility that's also involved.
A lot, all the times. I mean, you find yourself in the middle of a broadcast, and a president has just passed away.
Sure.
Or Trump has put out an executive order.
Let me keep quiet.
Oh, yeah, wow. So you need to know how to navigate and be able to get those news out to people in a way that they need to get it.
Your on-screen personality, if there is such a thing.
Yes.
Do you groom it? Do you carve it? Because as I'm listening to you talk, and the times where I've actually caught you on screen. There is one broadcaster you remind me of.
Right.
I think she was late. Tumi Magabo. She had that very calm. And you also have that. You have that essence. Is it something that, as a broadcaster, you cognizantly think, okay, I want to come across this way. I want to come across as calm, but assertive, or I want to come across as vibrant, or how does that work?
I think more than anything, it needs to start authentically with who you are. Because if you're on TV almost every day and you're putting on a show, then you must be a really great actor because you need to switch on to this character. So for me, honestly, it really is about who Katlego is, so that when friends and family and strangers meet you in the streets, they don't go, oh, but you're so different on TV, you know? They need to really see a person who's not only professional, but who is who they are. And I find that very important because we really live in an age where we put on so much. We put on these faces. We put on these personas. And audiences are not so receptive to the putting on anymore. There was a time in television and marketing where people were just driven by whatever gimmick they were given. Now people are more responsive to, oh, but that's so real of this person. So I think my on-screen persona has always been that. And even if you were to track from back in the Soweto TV days on Business Day, there really is a consistency in really who just I am.
Are broadcasters deliberate, and let me say specifically news broadcasters, are they deliberate in not having scandals? Because I don't recall any, even from when we were kids.
We don't have the time to be scandalous.
Anyone, you know, like we know with other celebrities, it's like we know every 3 months
there's something popping up.
But I don't recall from Mamnokolo Horbo, Sbongile Sokulu,
Actually.
Kanye Lomo, yourself. I've never heard of
any scandals. Look, we are put into a box where there's a lot expected of newsreaders. So you always have to be cognizant of what it is that you put out there, even when you're off screen. So how we dress, how we behave, how we interact needs to correlate, because it needs to be believable. Because if you see me popping bottles in a club and then the following day I'm reading the news, as an audience, you'd be like, man.
You will even question when
if I'm really telling you what
the truth,
you know, the truth. So it also just becomes a part of who you are. And I'd like to believe, like even someone who's a doctor, it becomes a part of who they are in any situation where they can help and heal, regardless of if it's out of their scrubs, they would still do it. So you sort of get groomed into that way of life.
And you've grown from strength to strength, level to level.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself seeking more? How do you keep yourself, or how do you stop yourself from being comfortable? Because it's very easy to get comfortable because you are in this great organization with these great benefits, and you know you're enjoying your job, you're enjoying your position and your role. And then years fly by, things change, and you find yourself somehow stuck because you didn't grow, you didn't move around. Is there a strategy that you use, or even a formula that you use to keep yourself, you know, getting on that ladder?
Yeah, I think many a times I've been stuck, you know. I've gotten to places where you're not sure what the next move is. You feel like you're in a rut, but you still need to push yourself, especially because you're in a job where people are watching you every single day and you can't afford to be seen as not moving forward.
Correct.
But when you realize that you're stuck, you sort of sometimes have to step out of yourself and have an aerial view of what's going on in your life. And once you make that move of stepping out, you're able to pin and dot as to then how you move forward. And that's very important, that sometimes we move away because we could be so clouded, like you say, by what's around us, by the things that we're hearing about ourselves, that you don't take time to actually go, ooh, let me go back to school, or let me change my circle of friends and start hearing things differently. Let me align with people who are able to push and say, this is not enough. You can't stop here. Let's keep going. So your environment, more than anything, is so important in you realizing that you need to move, step up so that you can step higher.
I love that. You need to recognize certain facets and aspects of your life. I hope you caught that. even looking at the people that are around you.
Yeah.
Maybe you said specifically, maybe I need to hear new things or differently.
In a different voice that would steer you in a different direction.
Make new friends. We're not saying throw away your old friends, but make new friends so you can hear different things. How do you protect yourself from the world, Katlego? Because we all know whether you are a broadcaster, you are a celebrity, you are an influencer, the world, or let me say, a part of the world does tend to think we own you.
Yes.
You are us, or we are you. And whatever it is that you do outside of what you do also belongs to us. How do you protect yourself in that regard?
It's very important, and it becomes very difficult sometimes to draw that line, because to a large extent, you do belong to the people, you know? But there should be a part of your private life that needs to remain that. So what you put out in terms of family, in terms of children, in terms of your own personal space needs to really be limited. And if people are drawn and attracted to you because of the work that you do, it's always easier just to put that out there, because that keeps them, you know, just interested in the work that you do. But the minute you start oversharing, and then at some point expecting people not to have certain expectations, I think that's a little bit unfair. Because if I'm the one that chose to have a career that is in the public, there's a certain aspect of who I am that does belong to the public, that I could be accountable to the public for. But in how you curate that and how you protect that is truly up to you. Some people are very comfortable in showing you even as far as the bed they sleep on.
I know, right?
The food they eat. And then you get surprised when people start having opinions, because, I mean, why else are you putting it out there? You let them in.
I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, I think just this week, and we were talking about privacy protection, you know? And I said, you know, if there's one thing I'm always saying to myself when I look at especially American content creators, like, they must have some sort of spiritual protection that is out of this world, because they share everything. Okay, now we're building a house, and now the house is like this.
But we must also be cognizant of the fact that sometimes they share which you think is everything and not necessarily all the time. For example, if you watch Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Candy, she shoots all her scenes in her guest house, pretending that that is her house. So she protects really that space. Do you understand? So we sometimes just jump on these things and not really understand how this reality is not so real, and it's curated and it's scripted, but we then just take our lives and put them out there, and it really does endanger us. Like you say, they must have this unending spiritual protection,
because I'm like,
for you to put yourself out there like that.
Just showed us how much you spend. You are showing us they're building a house. The house is built, now you're going shopping. But at the same time, I do respect everyone, you know, who puts out themselves, because I guess we all have different reasons, you know?
Of course.
Now, Pumovation is a collaboration of beauty and motivation. That's why we have intelligent guests.
Listen to you.
On the show, intelligence. We are not just selling beauty, but also the beauty that is the anchor for Pumovation is really the one that we work from the inside out. How do you center yourself? And how do you ensure that the Katlego you're putting out there, and I know it may not always be a perfect process and an easy one, but how do you ensure that the Katlego that the world sees to a certain degree or certain level is the Katlego that is on the inside? Because we tend to have such a mismatch, you know? Hence, really the concept of Pumovation came about. That whatever it is you're going to work so hard to portray, whether it's your beauty, your hair, your car, whatever it is, let that be somehow, you know, a match of what is happening on the inside of you. How do you as Katlego ensure that your balance, you know, your essence is intact, so that when we look at you on the screen, whether you are out and about or you are doing your work, you know that this brand is authentic?
Right. I think it always starts with prayer. It always boils down to you getting down on your knees, showing gratitude, being aware of the privileges and the opportunities that have been bestowed upon you, and going back to God and saying, please constantly show me the way and show me the light with regards to what it is that I need to do. So that when you then go out there, that light shines through, because you were able to go back in prayer and say to God, this is who I am, this is who you've created. You must have a purpose for this. but constantly open my eyes to what I should be doing, who I should be doing it with, because who we align ourselves with is so important.
Yes.
But for you to find that balance always starts there. And then for me, I think just an added layer to that is community service. When you surround yourself with people who are less fortunate, you're always able to step back and go, my goodness, and even tell your children how it is that they need to constantly be aware of what's going on in the world so that they don't live in this little bubble of privilege and opportunity, and the world is just your oyster. So, I mean, there's an organization that I'm a part of right now. It's an HIV and AIDS advocacy group, and we've been doing some work. And just this past weekend, we were at a men's shelter in the Joburg CBD. And just to be in a room with over 200 men who are living in a shelter, these are men that could be providers, could be protectors, could really be giving a good contribution within their societies, but their light is so dim. They've completely lost any motivation to live, and they're able to grasp at anything that would be a lifeline to life. So when you're in those spaces and you hear men cry, and you hear how men are saying the society has left us behind, as an individual, when you sit and you reflect on your own life, it's those instances that will always enter you, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
I don't care how hard you are as a human being, but it will always bring you back to self to say, listen, for you to be here, it has really taken a lot from God and your ancestors, and you're not going to take it for granted.
I love it so much when my guests, and all of them do it, then they bring God onto the table, because who are we on the Beam of Vision without God, you know? And how involved is God in your life, just in general?
I think he's very involved. I've always said I don't have things that come to me easily. I always have to work hard for the things that I have. But then you realize, it's not you working hard, it's God working hard. It's him giving in the extra hours and giving you that extra mileage to go, a lot further, a few more kilometers further, because if he's not working in your life, then your life does come to a standstill. But if you don't realize it, and you don't be cognizant of the fact that God works beyond, then you're just living an unpurposeful life. And he works in our relationships, he works within our children, he works in the workplaces. A lot of the times when you come across difficulties and you're really trying to use your intellect to solve this problem, and then you pray to God, and then it just comes there instant, and then you're like,
Thank you, Big G.
Hey.
Thank you, Big G. In terms of motherhood, and I love to ask this question because I am a mother myself, and there's so much online conversation always happening around motherhood.
Yes.
And there are new ideals that are coming up, which I support. Women saying, I don't want to have children. I want to be a childless woman. Other women saying, it can never be me. So there's a lot that's happening. And again, I will always support what any woman wants for herself.
For their lives,
but what has motherhood done for you?
Sure, so much. It has reflected back as a mirror who I am. Because a lot of the times you step into motherhood and you don't know what you're doing. And then you watch these little human beings grow up. Other things about them you love, others you'll be irritated about, but it all comes back to, but that's what I do. That's how I respond to situations. That's how I perceive things. So I've really learned a lot about myself through my children. I've got two, a 13-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl. And they are very different in personalities. The boy is the cool, calm.
Always different in personality.
I'm that teenager that thinks, I've got it all in check. And then the girl is the feisty one, and she goes for whatever it is that she wants. And I can see myself in either of them in many situations. And you really then appreciate not only being a parent, but then you appreciate your parents, because you're then able to go back to your mom and your father and say, thank you. Thank you for this guidance, or I apologize for this. I realize why you made or wanted things to be in a certain way when I was young and I didn't understand, but now it's making sense.
I get it.
So our children are a true reflection of who we are.
They're teachers, right?
They are teachers.
They are such teachers.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of, or on the subtopic of parenting, I really want to give a shout out to your mom.
Aww.
I've never known your mom's official name. I've always known it as Mom Kelly.
Right.
So, Mom Kelly, this is for you.
It's
from me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I'm getting a bit emotional.
I know.
Because,
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. You were such a lovely woman. growing up, you were always warm
Yeah.
and kind, even when we were naughty.
When we were very naughty.
You were warm and kind. You always
Yeah.
had a bright smile, which is existent in your daughter now. And I know that at some point, after I lost my mom and stuff, you reached out, but you know, with all that haze and stuff, I could feel your warmth and I could feel your love and your support. And thank you for being a part of my childhood. And I hope you watch this and just know that sometimes in life we think that we are just there in people's lives and we are passing through and you don't realize that you make an impact. You did make an impact. You were one of my mother's friends that made an impact because of your kindness and warmth. And I know at your house there was always food, right?
There was. She was always cooking.
So
I need to live up to that. I'm lagging far behind.
You and me both. But yeah, Mom Kelly, thank you so much. And I'm so proud of Katlego. And I hope, in fact, I know that she's definitely everything that you raised your kids to be. And she was always like this. Like she was always like this. You know, Miss TV.
Miss TV. But you know, talking about parents, in fact, I was speaking to Noluthando, my younger sister, and I was telling her that I was coming here and she was so excited. And I said to her, if there's one thing I remember about your mom, because I know our moms were friends since high school.
Yes, yeah.
So we've known each other all our lives because when we were born, our moms were friends.
Yes.
And your mom was a pioneer. I remember seeing a Stuyvesant ad on TV and your mom was one of the main characters. And I was like, what?
The girl was a pioneer,
in the
right?
early 90s, this gorgeous, I mean, she looks exactly like what she looked like now. She was this gorgeous, tall, beautiful human being. And for me, as a Black girl watching the screen, it was like, oh my goodness, this is possible.
Yes.
And at some point, I think she really did plant the seed
did.
for many of us.
She did.
That look, it's possible. We saw her on so many of these commercials.
Colgate or something like that.
You know what I mean? And she was so poised, so gorgeous, and such an inspiration. And I think it's so important that we as moms are able to be in spaces where our daughters can look up to our friends. And that's very important because the inspiration will not only come from you, but also the people that you surround yourself with. I know I've got a friend who's a GP and my daughter wants to be a doctor and she always wants us to go to her house so she can ask questions and get to learn more. So who we surround ourselves with is not just for us, but it's for our kids.
It's for our
too.
kids, right? Thank you thank you to all the mothers who do amazing, amazing work. I think we'll air this on the Mother's Day weekend. I'm actually thinking that this is the perfect fit. How do you see, okay, let me ask it like this. How are you able to translate the vision you have of yourself to making it possible? Because as people, we struggle with that. Because everything that you are, I'm pretty sure you visualized at some point.
Yes.
Even though you did not see the whole way, but you visualized at some point. How are you able to then translate that vision from being a vision to actually manifesting?
Yeah. So it's very important to place yourself there a lot of the times. Even if it seems too far-fetched, even if it feels like you don't really believe that it could happen, but to place yourself and to physically see yourself in a certain position because that's where you want to be. It all starts there.
Yeah.
But it can't end there. There needs to be some kind of action to it. Even in the smallest of steps where you're picking up the phone and speaking to someone who's already there and you're asking, please, can I shadow you? Action. Please, can you be my mentor? That action is so important because we can live in our dreams for as long as we can, but we'd end up in a depressive state if that doesn't manifest into what we want. But it won't magically happen. There really needs those small steps that you need to take as an individual in order for you to find yourself there. So when you're then able to identify that that's where I want to be, that's where I want to go, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Thando, I see this is what you're doing. Can you guide me? Can you take me? And sometimes it's also very important that we're not just asking of people because then we lose opportunities, especially when it comes to mentorship. But rather, this is a skill that I have. Can I please come in and be your administrator while you do your podcast so that I can learn what it is for me to be able to get there? And as your administrator, you would then be passing on certain lessons that sometimes you wouldn't be even aware that you're passing on. But because I'm in that space, it already starts manifesting.
I love the fact that sometimes we can live in our dreams and it can get depressive because you're not taking action. And action, as Katlego said, Sometimes it's just picking up the phone.
Right.
Because we imagine at times the action needs to be now the very big thing.
Yes.
That I need to be there, I need to be in that studio, or I need to be driving that car. Sometimes pick up the phone and ask, how much is the car? Sometimes pick up the phone and say, can I come and see? Action.
Yes.
Put things into motion.
Yes.
Right? Katlego, we are about to wrap up.
Aww.
And I want to know the work that you are doing to be of service to others, because we have to shine a spotlight on that. We live in a country that is so, imbalanced in terms of opportunities, employment.
Yeah.
So when there is one of us who is doing something to help that situation, we need to know about it.
That's
so
true.
please take us through the work that you do for others.
For others. Okay, so there's quite a bit. I mentioned a little earlier on.
Please mention all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Okay. So there's Miss Teen Soweto,
Yes.
which was started by a friend of mine and I. His name is Jonathan Ramotse. We had met at Soweto TV. And initially when it had started, we were just trying to create a platform for young people to be able to express themselves artistically. So through spoken word. So we had tried a few things and we failed at that. And then I think a few months later, he came back and he said, look, I have an idea. How about we run a pageant for young teenagers in Soweto? But the pageant was just the pull, because a lot of young girls love to be a part of something where they're pretty and they're all dolled up. But there was a purpose to this pageant, and it was really to ignite that fire within young girls in spaces that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to get into. So with Miss Teen Soweto, they're able to be taught about self-awareness, about careers that aren't so obvious, especially to a young Black girl child. We put them in spaces where you could take them to a golf course and they would be taught a round of golf, and you're not on the golf course as a sugar daddy's side girl, but as someone who's able to learn the sport and understand what it does for you in your career. So we've taken girls in many instances where we put them in situations where they learn about themselves, where they learn about sisterhood, but most importantly about the opportunities that the world provides that they wouldn't necessarily learn as a hard skill in school. So we've run that as a reality TV show on Soweto TV for a number of years.
Nice.
A lot of young girls have come through our doors, from Yutuli Pongolos, who was one of our first cohort of Miss Teen Soweto, to many other girls who've become very academic over the time because of the opportunities that the pageant had started for them. So that's one thing. Like I mentioned, I'm a part of an HIV and AIDS advocacy group. And with them, currently we are in schools, primary schools, high schools, teaching about sexual behavior, making the right choices for young people in and out of school, where we speak to men and championing change, and for them just to change their perceptions around femicide and GBV. Also, again, the sexual choices that they make, but most importantly, just the choices we make as a society, because once we are run by a society that moves from a place of morality, we are able to correct a lot of things that we have been getting wrong. So that's a lot of the work that I have been doing. The other work that we've also been doing as a production company is to assist SMEs. SMEs are at the heart of our economy, and I absolutely love SMEs. And I think maybe it's because my grandmother was an SME and she used to sew. She sewed from the age of 14 all the way until she passed away at age 90. And I could see how that little small business was able to put many of us through school, put food on the table. So I always admire people that make things. So as a production company, we have come to make ads for small businesses, where we have MOUs with big production houses where they're able to place their ads. And we do this because it's very expensive for any business to be able to create an ad and place an ad. So with the structures that we have in place, we're able to create the ads at costs that we are able to take on. And then the negotiations that we have with the broadcasters, they're able to put them on at a very minimal fee. But what it does, it helps them to get a lot of traffic within their businesses. They're able to generate more revenue, and then they're able to employ more people. So that's a little bit that we're doing in the business.
Little bit.
It is a little bit.
It's the modesty for me.
That we're really trying to get SMEs to be pumped in the way that they should. And we can't only just say it's for government or big corporates to be able to be pouring in money in small businesses. So in any way that we can even just support a small business. I mean, even that which I'm wearing now is designed by a young lady. It's Odwa by Millie. And
as stunning as it is.
And it's people who take themselves seriously, who are then also passing on the art and bringing other young people in, teaching them how to sew and ensuring that that thread just keeps going on.
I love it. It can't get any better than this, guys. I know there's a lot of podcasts, right? But here we level up, we empower ourselves, and we change our perspectives because, I mean, look at Katlego and look at how you are just pouring yourself out into the world, right?
Yeah.
Looking back, that young girl.
The one that you knew.
The one that I knew that corrected me, right? That made her little sister
hold up the
newspaper. And to present day, Katlego. Is there anything you'd like to say to her?
Sure. Be kinder to yourself. You know, you've made it thus far. You had dreams. Sometimes they didn't work out exactly in the way that you wanted them to. But hey, man, just be proud. Be proud of yourself. Be kinder to yourself. You know, especially when we're raised by mothers, we're constantly pushing ourselves because the world looks at you and judges you differently. So sometimes just slow down.
Slow down and be kind to yourself. And to anyone sitting at home with a dream, or just feeling like there's no fire. Or maybe the fire is there, but I don't know how to switch it on. What can you say to them? You know?
I would say just reflect back on the things that fuel your enthusiasm. Because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves and finding that purpose and watching when people are moving around and seemingly are doing great things. But if there's one thing that you think back that even in your most depressive state, when you're at your saddest and you think about it and it gives you that kick, maybe start with that thing. Look at it, try and see how you can move with it. And not everything moves with money. Not everything moves with influence. Not everything moves with power. But just you standing up and saying, hey, maybe nyawathanda magwinya. So if I could just make 10, stand outside a school and let's see where this thing goes. Tomorrow you could have a bakery, a confectionery that could be producing the best fat cakes, but you never know until you start with just that batch of 5.
I love that.
Batch of 10. So that thing that ignites you. And I think sometimes we're so hard on ourselves because we put ourselves to the standards of what the world expects us to be doing, and it should be on a grand scale. And sometimes it really doesn't even need to be. It needs to be, I mean, I know there's one lady that's currently working with us in our NGO. She loves traditional African beer. And she started with one small pot, and now she's making for all the tourists that come onto Vilakazi Street. But it came from her igniting a recipe that her grandmother had taught her many years ago. And now she's putting it into a business and it's starting to thrive. So when you sit there and you feel like the world is not working for you, it's okay, because sometimes the world does not always work in our favor. But find that thing that fuels your enthusiasm. You'll see your passion lies there.
Find that thing that fuels your enthusiasm. And to just add on a bit, even if you don't have the courage to make those 10 magwinyas and go sell them, make a video of how you make them. Because that's the era that we are in, right? That sometimes you may not have the courage to physically go and do it.
That's so true.
Just take a video and show other people how to do it. Katlego, it has been exactly how I imagined it was going to be. Like, it has been exactly how I imagined how it was going to be. You've always been such a beacon of light.
Thank you.
You've always been a teacher.
Thank you.
You've always been just, like I said, well-spoken. Like, Katlego has been talking good English, has been speaking good English since we were 3, if not 4. She's been speaking good English.
Listen to you.
She's been speaking good.
Teacher.
No, me good English, I think, kicked in around grade 10. You
grade 10? No, it wasn't that late.
But I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I am so grateful to your parents for all the work that they've poured into you, because even as you speak, you know, you have such a reflective attitude. I mean, even when you spoke of your grandma, saying that you saw how the work that she did put everyone through school. And it highlighted to me that your kids are watching. Ladies, gents, whatever we do, our kids are watching. So the positive, the negative, always remember, if you have children, even other young, you know, nieces and nephews, if you've got younger eyes around you, just know that people are watching.
And they're learning. They learn from what we do.
Exactly. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for responding. I'm so fulfilled, actually.
So am I.
Like, I'm so fulfilled.
And you're doing such great work.
Thank you.
I mean, the women that you're able to pull onto this podcast is just, it's amazing. But it's also a reflection of the people you keep around you and the people you're able to say, listen, let's have these conversations. So all the best. I really hope this flies beyond your wildest dreams.
In God's name. Listen, this is the channel, the podcast, the platform where beauty collaborates with motivation, where you get inspired to chase the highest version of yourself, to level up, to have that identity shift. What you were yesterday, what you were the year before, it doesn't matter. If you were not happy with that, cultivate a new you. Practice in front of the mirror. Go out there, make those makunyas, as Katlego said, sell them. Just don't stand still and don't give up on yourself. So tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your friend, even tell your ex to subscribe to this channel so they can be a better person. This is Motivation with Katlego Msomi. Until next time.
Goodbye. Oh, my friend, this has been amazing. Thank you.
It's exactly how I thought it was going to be.